There are words that draw a woman closer, and there are words that quietly dismantle her attraction, piece by piece. You may think you're being honest. You may believe you're opening your heart, but sometimes the very things you say to connect with her are the things that create distance. And that's exactly why this channel exists. Welcome to the Stoic spirit, where modern men reclaim ancient strength, where silence speaks louder than begging, where your presence, not your pleading, becomes your power. If you're new here, this isn't about manipulation, it's about alignment. It's about learning how your words shape not only how she sees you, but how you see yourself. Because if you're like most men, you've been taught that openness equals strength, that vulnerability poured out without restraint is the way to her heart. But here's the truth. No one told you. Attraction doesn't bloom in emotional flooding. It grows in calm, in control, in the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth. Women are not drawn to a man who crumbles under his emotions. They're drawn to the man who feels deeply but remains composed, anchored in self-respect. This isn't coldness. This is clarity. Because every word you say isn't just a sentence, it's a signal. It tells her who you are, what you value, whether you lead or follow fear. And if you've ever spoken from the heart, only to watch her pull away. It wasn't always rejection. Sometimes it was her instincts responding to imbalance, to desperation, to need. Here at the Stoic Spirit, we don't glorify pain. We transform it. So stay with me, because what you'll learn in this video might challenge what you've believed your entire life, but it will also restore something deeper, your center, your presence, your power. And it all begins with knowing what not to say. 1. I can't live without you. It sounds poetic, like something you'd hear in a movie, in the rain, at the airport, in that final desperate scene. But in the real world, those words carry a weight that crushes attraction. You're not just telling her she matters. You're telling her you've built your entire emotional survival around her existence. And when a woman hears that, she doesn't feel more loved. She feels pressure. She feels trapped. Suddenly, the relationship becomes less about connection and more about responsibility. She becomes the life support system to your heart. And that's not romantic. That's heavy. Women are not drawn to men who collapse when love is uncertain. They're drawn to men who remain steady, even in emotional storms. A man who can stand in silence, hold his frame, and walk forward with or without her hand. That's the man who pulls her in, not through desperation, but through unshakable presence. Imagine this. She starts pulling away. Your gut tightens. You panic. So, you text her, I can't live without you. You think you're showing love. She reads it as fear. What she feels isn't attraction. It's a shift in energy, from strength to fragility, from leadership to emotional dependence. She didn't leave because she stopped caring. She left because she stopped seeing you as the grounded man she once admired. Let's be clear. Love doesn't because you feel too much. It fades when what you feel begins to swallow who you are. Emotional connection is beautiful, but emotional neediness is suffocating, and no woman wants to feel like your oxygen, because when you can't breathe without her, she loses the freedom to just be. A woman respects a man who invites her into a full life, not a man who builds his entire world around her. That difference matters. It's the difference between a relationship based on choice and one built on survival. So here's the truth. You don't win her heart by clinging tighter. You win her respect by letting go when you must. Not to punish her, but to protect your own identity. show her you're a man with purpose, with direction, with a life that continues, regardless of who stays. Because when you stop pleading, when you stop pouring all your worth into someone else's hands, you become magnetic again, not because you're distant, but because you've returned to yourself. And that's the version of you she can't stop thinking about. 2. You're out of my league. It sounds harmless, even sweet, like you're showing her how much you admire her beauty, her presence. But beneath those words, you've just told her something deeper, that you don't believe you belong in her world. And whether she says it or not, she feels it. The second a man places himself below a woman, he shifts the energy between them. She stops feeling like she's chosen someone strong and starts feeling like she's being worshipped. And worship doesn't create passion, it creates pressure. Women may smile at compliments, but deep down, they're drawn to men who walk into a room already knowing they carry value, not hoping to be validated. When you say, "You're out of my league," you think you're being humble. But what she hears is, "I don't see myself as worthy of you," and she will start to believe you. Women are highly intuitive. They pick up on things you don't say directly, in your tone, in your body language, in the stories you tell about yourself. And if you carry the belief that you're not enough, she will mirror that energy back to you. Let me paint a picture. You meet a beautiful woman. She's confident, magnetic, elegant, and instead of seeing her as human equal in flaws and strengths, you put her on a pedestal. You laugh nervously. You try to impress her. You tell her, "I can't believe someone like you is talking to someone like me." In that moment, the connection shifts. You've just made her your superior. And now, she doesn't feel excitement. She feels imbalance. True attraction lives in equality, in mutual admiration, in the space where two people meet as individuals, not as worshipper and goddess. A woman doesn't want to carry your self-worth. She wants to meet your confidence. She wants to feel your energy, your groundedness, your silent strength. You don't need arrogance. You need clarity. You don't need to act like you're better than her. You just need to stop believing that you're beneath her. Because the moment you hand her the crown, she stops feeling the desire to chase your presence and starts feeling responsible for how you see yourself. That's not love. That's emotional labor. Attraction is not about hierarchy. It's about polarity. It's about energy that moves freely between two grounded people. So don't say it. Don't even think it. You're not beneath her. You're not above her. You're beside her, or you walk away. Walk through the world like you belong, because you do. And when you carry yourself like a man of quiet strength, she'll feel it in her bones, even before you speak a word. 3. I'll do anything for you. It sounds noble, like something a devoted man would say. But if you pause and truly examine what it means, you'll see that it's not loyalty you're offering, it's surrender. "I'll do anything for you" often hides a silent fear, the fear of being left, the fear of not being enough, the fear that if you don't bend, she'll break away. But here's the truth. Most men avoid. The moment you're willing to become anything for a woman, you stop being the man she was drawn to in the first place. Why? Because attraction is rooted in form, in structure, in self-respect. And when you erase your own edges, your standards, your direction, your principles, you dissolve the very shape that gave her something to lean into. It's not the gesture that kills attraction. It's the energy behind it, the desperation, the need to be accepted at all costs. A man who says, "I'll do anything," is often a man who fears saying no, who fears conflict, who fears being alone. And so he overextends, he overgives. He overcompensates until she no longer feels challenged, no longer feels tension, no longer feels him, because she can't feel a man who has melted into whatever she wants. And here's where many men get confused. Kindness isn't the problem. Thoughtfulness isn't weakness. But giving up your identity to please her, that's where desire begins to die. Women may say they want a man who always agrees, who always adapts, who never questions. But what they truly crave is a man with gravity, one who gives with strength, not from fear, but from fullness. She doesn't test you to hurt you. She tests to see what stands, to feel the resistance that proves you are real, not a mirror reflecting her preferences. Because when she senses that you'll fold at the first sign of disapproval, she may feel flattered, but she will not feel safe. Respect grows where boundaries exist. Love grows when two people meet as whole, not hollowed. Imagine this. You meet a woman, she captivates you, and in your effort to win her heart, you start adjusting. Your priorities shift. You stop speaking your truth. You avoid saying no. You become agreeable, predictable, soft, and instead of drawing her closer, she drifts, not because she's cruel, but because the flame she once felt is now a flicker. What ignites passion isn't constant approval, it's presence with integrity. It's being able to hold your ground with calm, not control. Because when you give everything, expecting love in return, you're not giving, you're bargaining. And love isn't a transaction, it's resonance. So no, don't say, I'll do anything for you. Say, I'll walk beside you, but I won't walk away from myself. That's the energy of a man who leads, not by domination, but by direction. And when she feels that she doesn't just admire you, she desires you. 4. Please, don't leave me. It's a phrase soaked in emotion, a quiet plea, a whispered hope spoken from fear, pain, or even love. But no matter where it comes from, it lands the same way, as a surrender. The moment a man says, please don't leave me, he gives away something sacred, his center, his calm, his power. Let's be honest, men don't say those words because everything is steady. They say them when their world feels like it's falling apart, when the woman they care about starts to drift, and they fear they'll never find that connection again. And yes, loss hurts. When a bond begins to break, it feels like the floor beneath you is cracking open, but begging her to stay doesn't heal the wound. It deepens it, because in that moment, you're no longer the man she looked up to. You're no longer grounded, composed, or clear. You become someone trying to hold on to something that's already slipping away, and she can feel it. Women are intuitive. They sense the shift when a man starts to panic, when his strength collapses under the weight of uncertainty. And when that happens, attraction doesn't just fade, it flips. She no longer feels drawn to you. She feels responsible for you. And responsibility is not the same as love. It's a burden. You may think your pleading shows her how much she means to you, but what it actually shows is that your entire emotional balance depends on her staying. That's not devotion. That's dependency. And dependency is heavy. No woman wants to feel like your anchor and your lifeboat. She wants to feel chosen, not needed for your survival. When you say, please don't leave me, you're not expressing love. You're expressing fear, not presence, but panic. And that kind of energy pushes her away faster than silence ever could. Here's the truth. If she's thinking about leaving, words won't change her mind. Energy will. Not disparate energy, not guilt, but strength, your composure, your willingness to stay centered, your ability to let go if that's what she chooses. That's what leaves a mark, because when you stop chasing and you let silence speak for you, you become a man she has to think about, a man she has to question, a man she can no longer control. There is power in restraint, there is dignity in stillness, and the moment you stop fighting to hold on, you start standing in something far greater, your worth. Every man will face a moment like this, a moment when someone they love pulls away, when fear knocks at the door and says, do something, say something, beg if you have to. But the man of substance does not beg, he does not plead, he does not hand over his soul to buy love. He stands in the storm, silent, rooted, resolve. And that silence, that strength, that's what makes her wonder. So no, don't say, please don't leave me. Let your energy say, if you choose to stay, I'll honor it. If you choose to go, I'll survive it. That's not cold, that's clarity. That's the voice of a man who leads with presence, not panits, because when you stop chasing her, she starts feeling the weight of your absence. And sometimes that absence echoes louder than any words ever could. 5. I don't have anyone else. It sounds honest, even noble, a quiet declaration of loyalty. But underneath that sincerity, there's a message you may not realize you're sending. When you tell a woman, I don't have anyone else, you're not just revealing your relationship status, you're revealing your state of mind. And that state is scarcity. You're saying, you're the only one who wants me, the only one I believe I can have. And whether you mean to or not, that energy carries weight. Because women don't respond to the words, they respond to the energy behind them. And the energy of lack is never attractive. Let's be clear, loyalty is beautiful, devotion is rare. But when loyalty is rooted in fear of being alone, it stops being a gift and starts becoming a plea. You're not offering her love. You're offering her a role, the one who makes you feel complete. That's not connection. That's emotional debt. And debt always creates imbalance. When a woman feels like she's your only chance at companionship, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels trapped. Not because she's cruel, but because deep down, every woman wants to know that the man she's with is desired, not disparity. She wants to feel that if she walks away, you won't collapse. You'll continue, rooted in your own path, in your own presence. Let me show you how this plays out. A man starts seeing a woman. Things are flowing well until they're not. She begins to pull back, and instead of remaining steady, he panics. He texts her, I've never connected with anyone like this. I don't have anyone else. I don't want anyone else. He thinks he's expressing loyalty. What she hears is, you're all I have. If you go, I fall apart. The shift is immediate, not because she dislikes him, but because that tension, the spark, the mysteries, in the presence of neediness. Attraction isn't about proving devotion. It's about holding your ground while still being open. And a man who carries himself like he has options, even when he isn't entertaining anyone else, moves differently. He texts with calm. He doesn't chase. He doesn't overthink silence. Because his value wasn't built in her approval, it was built in solitude, in silence, in choosing to become whole, with or without a witness. That's the man women respect. You don't need to date multiple people to have options. You just need to remember your power to choose, to know that your worth doesn't hinge on her staying. You are not loved because you lack options. You are loved because you've never let your worth depend on one. So no, don't say, I don't have anyone else, even if it's true. Let your presence say something deeper. I choose you. but I would still be whole if I stood alone. That is the energy of strength. That is the posture of quiet confidence. And that is what draws her in, not because you need her, but because you don't. 6. Tell me what to do. There comes a moment in every relationship where uncertainty creeps in, where the silence between you feels heavier than words. And in that moment, some men panic. They reach out, not with clarity, but with surrender. Tell me what to do. At first glance, it sounds respectful, like a man seeking harmony. But listen closely. What you're really saying is, I've lost my map. I need you to lead. And here's the hard truth. No woman wants to feel like she's steering a ship. That was never hers to navigate. When you ask a woman to tell you what to do, you may think you're being cooperative, but what you're actually revealing is that you're unsure of who you are, where you're going, and how to stand in your own direction. And that uncertainty, it doesn't invite closeness. It creates distance, because attraction isn't built on perfect choices. It's built on presence, uncertainty, on the quiet strength of a man who leads his life, with or without applause. A woman doesn't want to make your decisions. She wants to trust the decisions you make. She wants to feel safe in your leadership, not because you never falter, but because you never abandon your role as a man. Think of it this way. Every time you say, "Tell me what to do," you're handing over the wheel and asking her to drive your life. And when she senses that, she doesn't feel empowered. She feels burdened, because now she's not just your lover, she's your compass, your captain, your emotional caretaker. And that is not a position that breeds desire. That's a position that builds exhaustion. Women are drawn to grounded men, men who seek input but not permission, men who can hold space for her emotions while still holding on to their own clarity. Leadership in love is not about dominance. It's about direction. It's about knowing your values, making decisions, and trusting your judgment, even when it's hard. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs to feel that you're capable, because when you lead yourself, you invite her to follow, not because she has to, but because she trusts the road you're on. Let me paint a scene. You and her have a disagreement. She grows cold. Tension rises. And you panic. So you ask, "What do you want me to do? Just tell me what to do." In your mind, you're trying to fix it, but to her, it sounds like you're lost, that you don't know your own heart, your own mind, or your own boundaries. And now, the man she once admired feels like a boy asking to be saved. That's not respect. That's resignation. Real masculinity is not loud. It's rooted. It doesn't ask, "What should I do?" It considers, "What do I believe is right? And can I stand by that?" So don't say, "Tell me what to do." Say, "I hear you, and this is how I choose to move forward." Even if she disagrees, even if it creates conflict, she'll feel the presence of a man who isn't afraid to lead with conviction, because in the end, what keeps attraction alive isn't compliance, it's clarity. A man who knows where he stands doesn't need constant direction. He becomes the direction. 7. I'm not good enough for you. Let's get this clear. If you've ever whispered those words, even just in your mind, you've already planted a seed of destruction. You didn't just tell her you're not worthy. You told yourself that you don't belong in the room. You made her the sun, and you became your own shadow. When a man says, "I'm not good enough for her," he's not being humble. He's surrendering to a story that says he has nothing of value, nothing she could possibly admire, and nothing that justifies his place beside her. That story doesn't make you noble. It makes you invisible, because no woman is drawn to a man who's already erased himself before he's even begun. This mindset kills attraction, not just with her, but with the world. It bleeds into how you speak, how you stand, how you walk into a room, because when you see yourself as less than, you move like a man asking for permission to exist, and that energy, it repels. You think you're expressing vulnerability, but what you're really doing is making her carry the weight of proving your worth. And that's a burden no woman signed up for. She wants to feel pulled toward a man who knows who he is, not pushed into convincing you that you matter. Here's the deeper wound. Every time you repeat the phrase, "I'm not good enough," you reinforce it. You carve it deeper into your identity until you stop pursuing growth, until you stop trying, until you shrink. You begin to play small. You stop showing up fully. You hide behind excuses. But here's what you've forgotten. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to be present. You're supposed to show up, to grow, to bring your edge, your story, your weight. Every man carries something sacred, whether it's his integrity, his vision, his compassion, or simply the way he holds space for others. But when you look at her and say, "I'm not good enough," you're discarding every piece of that. You're choosing to forget your own power. Let's be honest, the world doesn't owe you her love. And she's not obligated to admire you, but you owe it to yourself. To walk like a man who belongs. A man who doesn't chase approval. A man who doesn't compare his light to others, because he knows how long it took to ignite his own. This isn't about ego. It's about self-respect. You don't have to be the richest, or the smartest, or the most charismatic, but you do have to believe in your own seat at the table, because the moment you doubt that, you stop being a man she can respect, not because you're flawed, but because you don't value yourself enough to show up fully. So if you've been walking around with the thought, "I'm not good enough," it's time to rewrite the script, not just for her, but for you. Stop waiting for validation. Stop hoping she'll fix what you refuse to heal. Start building. Start leading. Start standing like a man who understands this truth. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are enough. And until you believe that, no one else can. So here's the truth. Brother, if you're still begging for validation, still placing her on a pedestal, still whispering, "I'm not good enough," then you're not stepping into the man you were meant to be. You're not ready for a real relationship, not because you're broken, but because you haven't claimed your worth. Respect doesn't chase, attraction doesn't beg, and love doesn't grow in the soil of self-doubt. A woman won't see you as valuable until you do. If you approach love from a place of fear, you'll always be performing, always guessing, always bleeding pieces of yourself to earn what should rise naturally from your presence. That's not connection. That's survival. So stop proving. Stop apologizing for your flaws. Stop shrinking so someone else can shine. Lead yourself first. Stand where your voice doesn't tremble. Show up like a man who doesn't need permission to exist, because when you do that, when you walk in your own truth, that's when she listens. That's when she respects. That's when she follows. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught yourself saying one of those lines? What did it cost you? Or what did it teach you? Drop a comment below and share your story, because your experience might wake another man up. If this message hit you, subscribe to the Stoic Spirit and join the men who lead with strength, not fear. Remember, a man who honors his worth doesn't have to demand respect. He becomes it